Shalom Eastern Shore. I am Rabbi David Tokajer with Congregation Maim Chaim, the Eastern Shore's Messianic Synagogue, and I am bringing you your daily dose of living water. In Exodus 25, we read of the beginning of the description of the work of the building of the Mishkan, or the tabernacle, that would be the dwelling place of the presence of God in the midst of the nation of Israel. The tabernacle was a powerful symbol of the revelation of the presence of God dwelling among his people and leading and guiding them in their journey. The revelation of the reality that he would never leave nor forsake them. It stood as a symbol of the calling and protection of Israel before the nations around them, and I'd imagine that for those who have heard the now rapidly spreading word of how Adonai brought freedom to Israel from Egypt, as we see of Rahab speaking to the Israelite spies in the book of Joshua, this revelation of the cloud of glory revealed with the tabernacle was a powerful sight to see and a warning to be heeded by the nations. To me, though, I think one of the most important realities of the Mishkan is the idea that Adonai isn't some distant superhero, all-powerful being that we must fear and cower to, but instead that he is a personal God who desires intimacy and closeness with his people. He wants to dwell in our midst, and as we see through the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, he wants to dwell in our hearts and lives as well. In Exodus 25, 1 and 2, we read, Adonai spoke to Moses saying, "Tell Bnei Israel to take up an offering for me from anyone whose heart compels him. You are to take my offering." Notice how intentional the Lord is in revealing his yearning for dwelling among his people. He tells Moses to collect an offering of the materials necessary to build his dwelling place among Israel, but to only collect the offering from those who have a willing heart. Adonai could have easily told Moses to collect a set financial value of whatever materials evenly distributed from every individual in the tribes of Israel. But this isn't what he wants or desires. He isn't looking to force us to make a dwelling in our lives for him. He wants us to willingly yearn and desire for his presence to be in our lives. He wants us to want him to rest in our midst. This strikes me as an extremely powerful reality about our relationship with the Lord today. Let me break this down just a bit for you. The Hebrew word mishkan, which is the tabernacle, comes from the root word shechan, which means to dwell, and it is also the root of the word Shekhinah, the presence or glory of Adonai. The Mishkan was meant to be his dwelling place among his people. Even more so, it was meant to be a prophetic foreshadowing of his dwelling within our hearts and lives by the indwelling of his Ruach HaKodesh. In the same sense that he did not require each and every person to give materials for the building of the tabernacle mandatorily, he doesn't require us to accept his salvation and make a dwelling place for his presence mandatorily. He desires us to approach him with a willing heart. He desires us to give freely and willingly to make our hearts a mishkan for his presence. And much like when Israel was wandering through the wilderness, the nations around them could see the tangible presence of God with them in the cloud of his glory on the mishkan, the same will be true for our lives today. Through willingly offering our hearts and lives for his indwelling, the world around us can and will see his presence in our lives and be drawn to his salvation. Shalom.